2 days ago on r/Google Earth Finds, a thread known as Disturbing Message spotted on Google Earth near Cesar Chavez Avenue in Los Angeles. Help! Traffico, LAPD, and federal written debris. And of course, it led to a coordinate of 34 degrees north, 118 degrees west. And if you're looking closely, it led to a pretty haunting set of messages. The words help written all across this one yard in a pretty popular, high traffic area, I would say, of Los Angeles, California. So of course the internet did what the internet did, and of course this was a pretty alarming set of things. Not only was the word help written around over here, but words like traffico, the LAPD, federal, and of course, in amongst far other words put into it, terrorismo, dos. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, all of this spread across the entire internet like wildfire in conspiracy theory circles. It became a pretty big topic on 4chan, became a pretty big topic all over X, and plenty of other social media circles. Now, is this indicative of a human trafficking operation, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's sit back and try to figure out what's actually going on while we dig through this rabbit hole. Now, in the city of Los Angeles, around Cesar Chavez and, of course, Mission Road, it seems, appear to be this lot. Now, obviously, if you're recognizing where this section is, closer inspection will take you, ladies and gentlemen, to a pretty iconic street in Los Angeles. Chances are, if you played games like Grand Theft Auto 5, you recognize this bridge. You probably recognize this area. But of course, looking further into it, the more we actually see what's going on, the words help are written pretty obviously as anybody drives by. That same Google Earth image ends up looking like this from the ground. So you see the actual words H-E-L-P. And of course, even on things like the sidewalk, you can see the word help written over here. There were other people who dug into like Apple Maps, for instance, and found that around this billboard that you're looking at, just behind it was also the words written help, or at least in the front of it at one point. Actually, behind this wall, you could actually see graffiti that indicated the words run. So, of course, all of these coincidences got people a little bit suspicious. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, thankfully, satellite imagery has the ability for us to actually look at historical data and see just what happened to other parts of this area. So, of course, more internet sleuths went down and found out that somewhere around February 2023, when the Google Earth car drove by, this billboard, ladies and gentlemen, had words like help, FBI, ASAP, urgent, and of course, even closer, names like Alyssa would show up. Now, when I say this is like high traffic, I really mean high traffic. I myself have driven around this area. I actually have probably eaten near here too. There might even be like a burger place that I ate around this location. And, oh my God, I actually freaked out for a second. I thought my wife's car was actually right there. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea, this billboard is one that I myself have probably driven past, especially if this was captured in February of 2023. But generally, I'm not really paying attention to most of the billboards in the city because there's a whole lot of billboards all over Los Angeles. But this is relatively alarming. Now, obviously, this area became a pretty, again, viral location, and even, again, people from the FaZe clan had actually ended up showing up to this viral location, trying to figure out what was actually going on. This clip is from an individual known as FaZe Lacey, and he comes across something that's a little spookier than, it should be. Listen to this.
The more we stay here, the more we...
Is there any chance you'd like to do an interview for our documentary?
Uh-oh. Say come here? Me? Yo. I ain't gonna lie, you got that gang.
Get out?
Say get out. Say to get out.
So the guy in the car tells Lacey to get out as his two friends have already pussied out of this situation away from him. So again, when somebody in this area tells you to probably back away, you probably should. To give you an idea, this part of the city is not one that I personally would like to drive through. I only go through it if I have to. I would never stop my car here. Never ever would I stop here to look around, shop, or even eat. This is a relatively spookier side of Los Angeles, okay? Generally speaking, there's a lot of interesting looking businesses. a lot of what I suspect to be possibly gang-related behavior. I mean, there's literally my experience driving around this area. I think I've actually seen at least 2 chop shops, and I would not trust this location at all. And of course, there were a lot of investigators on places like Reddit where, again, this user goes, "That's sketch AF. I'm like a 20-minute walk from there. I already called the LAPD, and I'm on my way with water and food. Don't let them try to tell you I had any weapons on TV if any shit goes down." Again, I want to preface this by saying that usually when it comes to viral stories like this, I read this all the time, and I swear to God, just leave it at calling the law enforcement agencies and do not go down here. Again, there are actual gang-related activities that occur all over Los Angeles, especially in this side of Los Angeles, East LA. And I would not recommend you go down here, especially with a gun. You're only going to aggravate the situation. And it's great that you want to try to feed people and come with water, especially if there are a lot of homeless people, which there are in that region. I would not ever go in here without, again, just leave it to the police, all right? You're actually stepping into some dangerous situations that really don't have anything to do with human trafficking, actually has more to do with gang-related activities. So looking closer into this, I dug even deeper and found that this question was actually asked in r/Ask Los Angeles about a year ago. What's going on with the help me signs where the 101 and 10 split going east after downtown? So this user mentions the landscaping is constantly being changed to say help on the Boyle Heights hillside. The messages mention corruption and police issues. What's actually going on over there? So the more you go down, there's actually some users that have shown some actual photographs being taken. And there's, again, straight up graffiti of, just people posting up things like help. In fact, if you look closer down here, you can probably read things like the FBI. For instance, la son motos y voces, secuestros, robos, I think it's like extortion right over here. So again, it's just words like help and just graffiti being thrown around in here. Now, at this moment in time, I also decided to see if there were any webcams or potential traffic cams that were capturing, actual footage in this area. And unfortunately, according to this, the closest webcam that I was able to find was a traffic camera around Elysian Park, Bunker Hill. So again, this is what a traffic camera would look like. I was trying to find something near that actual area just to see if maybe you could capture a glimpse of who actually did this, and unfortunately that information wasn't available. So in the conspiracy hole, people started to look even further into some of these images and found that there were some suspicious looking holes. Again, this area is known to have some construction around it. So it's not uncommon to see something like that in an area like this, especially when there is construction. And how do you know that there's construction? Well, going into Google Earth, one of the things that we can do is actually see a timeline going, yes, literally all the way back to 1985. So coincidentally, this area was a massive blur for Google satellite imagery because there's just not enough information to go here. And of course, in 1994, this is what the lot actually used to look like. Of course, in 2004, you could see that this was a actual car lot, and possibly even related to this business right over here. In 2006, it was still a car lot. 2011, then you would start to get more high, production imagery through the satellite. 2014, same old deal. Fast forward all the way to 2018, and it's pretty much an empty area. But of course, going to the year 2020, you can see it's still pretty empty. 2023, you can see that things start to fill up, and it's around 2023 that the word help actually starts showing up. And of course, the more and more you go down, the more and more actual construction work, it appears, is actually happening in this area. Now, the only other interesting thing to note is in around September of 2022, you can actually see a whole bunch of containers showing up here until, again, 2023, around the summer, when, of course, the word help gets shown. But of course, one thing that you also start to notice over here is around this little cul-de-sac, not cul-de-sac, but this little enclosure, this little parking space almost here, you can start to see that a homeless encampment starts to actually form. In fact, in the most recent photography over here in 2024, the February of it, you can see it's pretty much taken over by a group of homeless individuals. Which, again, this area, if you're looking very closely, is not too far away from even places like Skid Row or, again, the very high homeless density areas of Los Angeles. If you've ever driven around here, there is, again, a lot of homeless encampments in this section of Los Angeles, okay? In fact, it's very close to DTLA. Now, why did I bring up the homeless encampment over here? Again, there are two conspiracy theories that kind of come into this situation. One of them is obviously this place could potentially be an area of human, trafficking. Those holes that we mentioned earlier could potentially be an entry point for people that are unfortunately being trafficked. And again, the thing that obviously like kind of buzzes anybody is this is a again pretty high traffic area. This wouldn't have been avoided by any form of aerial patrol, whether it be, the LAPD or a civilian. The actual reality of it is, too, is that this help was also pretty visible from the ground, as we've seen earlier in the video. And the thing about it is, if this is a human trafficking operation, again, you have to ask yourself the question, why would a, victim come up to the top, basically be allowed to write out these very, very legible forms of help that would easily be seen by any form of aerial traffic surveillance, which happens quite a fair bit in Los Angeles? Why would the criminal allow the victim to necessarily do this? Either this is a human trafficking situation, or the more likely scenario is it's unfortunately somebody who may be very mentally ill, which obviously is something that is very common with the homeless population in California. It's one of the reasons why I went to that homeless encampment over here. This is, to me at least, it seems like a potential sign of a homeless individual or several homeless people possibly having, again, an episode, or again, this is mental illness leading them to do this. But again, there's obviously things that people are questioning, right? The mentioning of the FBI, the LAPD, the police. In fact, in other Reddit communities, people have talked and said that they have actually seen a homeless person write these things out. Now, obviously, I can't confirm that, but again, it would probably lead credence to the second theory versus the more sensationalistic human trafficking theory. Now, when it came to on-the-ground journalism, one user known as the LA Guy actually did end up finding some people around this area. And one resident of this area actually had to explain that this potentially was an actual homeless person, according to them.
Okay, I was just wondering. Because, somebody on the ground wrote a bunch of help.
Help?
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
What is that?
I don't know, man. Every time that it's the big ones, the small ones.
Yeah.
I don't know what is that.
Is it people just messing around?
It's a homeless.
You think so?
Yeah.
For instance, Illustrious Youth here says, I live in Los Angeles and drive by daily. There is a homeless man living under the pass that does this. On the freeway, you can read all of the theories. A lot of it looks like rants and ramblings. He's been arrested and moved out of there so many times, but always comes back and redoes all the markings if they paint it. And of course, another user also confirmed, I live here, and can confirm that he does this every day. Now again, this is the word of, again, individuals that claim to be living in Los Angeles. I can't confirm if they've done it, but it lines up with the mental illness theory if true. And I've unfortunately seen a fair bit of homeless people in Los Angeles, and I've unfortunately seen actual mental illness episodes amongst the actual homeless crowd. It's a shame to see. You really wish something can be done, but unfortunately, with a cocktail of drugs, and again, a city that unfortunately houses a lot of homeless individuals, it is just a shame to see. Now, going back to the old 4chaners over here, they decided to dig even deeper than some of the Redditors, and in one instance, they actually dug through a mapping application known as Spartan Forge. And this is where, again, more of these mentions show up. So, for instance, FBI Wanted shows up as debris, Moneymakers, Police Metro, Hild Garcia, LA China, Kevin De Leon, Agatisha Fiera, Jose Cesares Limon, Adriana Solis, and again, this is just more and more debris being thrown in here. And of course, this is from 2024 0830, and yeah, it's just a, it's more of this art, more of this messages just being strewn about. Now, where again, it got really wilder in this thread with the 4chaners is when they started looking at some of these surrounding businesses, and this is where I did come across something that genuinely did catch my attention. Not too far away from the actual key area, right over here, if you go just a little bit to the east side, you can start to notice that this is actually part of a massive rail yard, which I believe is the Union Pacific Rail Yard. And one of the actual businesses that I saw was one street view to this area. So there are some cars, there are some people apparently working on these cars, and of course you can actually see that this location is a apparent police station, like the Union Pacific Police. Now, obviously, if you're looking at this really carefully, I doubt that there's any actual police work that goes on in the situation. I would say that if anything goes here, it might be the exact opposite of police work. So I started to look up Union Pacific like stuff, and apparently there is actually like a police department with special agents for crimes that are committed against railroads. Now, of course, the department is responsible for all the locations across 32,000 miles in tracts of 23 states. And of course, they have a dispatch center in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, the thing is, I couldn't really find anything about this Los Angeles branch in here. Like, it's just, they've got a whole bunch of stuff going here. I would say, based on February 2019, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of work going here. In fact, this is the latest date that I can actually find. If you go back, you can actually see that literally May 2014 was when like this appeared to actually be open. Like, this was their actual division headquarters. And of course, if you go to 2015, it still appeared to actually be active. And in 2017, it was just ridden with graffiti. Until finally, in 2019, it just literally got entirely blocked off. There may be something happening over here that may not be related to human trafficking, but it certainly isn't related to anything that I would even say is good behavior. There was one other conspiracy theory that kind of popped up with this. One user on X goes, looks like a Cemex spot. Cemex being a multinational company headquartered in Monterrey, Mexico, that I believe has to do with, again, selling building resources. And I believe, according to this situation, it's ultimately owned by one of Mexico's top billionaires. I believe it's Carlos Fuentes, but if not, I can issue a correction as we do a post, as we edit this in post. Send someone into the hole. Let's find them. Yeah, as much conspiratorial as you get, for your own safety, you should leave this to law enforcement professionals, okay? Cemex Los Angeles area, Cemex was deeply involved in the child trafficking rings. Deeply. So again, I don't know how true this necessarily is. The one link that led to this conspiracy is probably, again, from like Poll on 4chan, or X, Paranormal, wherever, where they kind of talk about one story from child trafficking camps that was apparently found in Tucson, Arizona. So, of course, again, you go down this list. This week, connected to John Benet Ramsey case in Arizona, land is owned by Cemex. Carlos Slim is the second largest stockholder of the New York Times. Cemex is a partner of the Clinton Global Initiative. Cemex is linked to Haiti. So, yeah, it's a lot of stuff brought into Cemex over here. And the more I looked into Cemex, in their child trafficking situation, I couldn't really find anything but, news organizations talking about YouTube and many social media sites promoting this conspiracy theory that apparently is misinformation. Again, I couldn't find anything in relation to the Homeland Security, to the Federal Bureau that had Cemex linked in any of this. And the Cemex link wasn't out of nowhere. The only reason it was linked is from this actual location, Cemex is nothing but a 4-minute drive. So right over here is one of the plants for Cemex, and this is the actual location of those help messages. Again, it seems like a pretty flimsy connection. And in reality, in all of this, the most I looked into it, I even looked into the property assessments and the records of the area, and I couldn't find out who actually owned this exact, blotch of land. So in reality, at the end of it, the investigation kind of falls flat over here. Now, it hasn't stopped people for, again, looking into this because it's gotten pretty viral on, again, many forms of social media. But the reality of it is look, at the end of this, ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that I think most likely makes a lot of sense here is we are looking at messages left by the homeless population of Los Angeles. And of course, with mental illness reigning and drugs to just further accelerate that, it really seems like this is somebody who is homeless, probably issuing a cry of attention. Maybe a cry of help, a legitimate cry for help, to be honest with you. Or they might have had some seriously bad experiences with the Los Angeles Police Department, which wouldn't shock me. And again, this is somebody leaving behind. Again, the scary part of this is the word trafficos. Again, people are somewhat reasonably believing that this could be a human trafficking situation. But I honestly, after investigating this for, however long it's been out, I really cannot find any tangible crumb to really base that off of. Again, it is a human trafficking operation. The fact that it's so close to a high traffic area is already a bit of a red flag. It's most likely that this is a homeless individual or several homeless individuals leaving behind a message and a probably seriously legitimate cry for help. Now, generally, if you are worried about this, I'm sure the LAPD and the FBI and the Homeland Security groups and plenty of nonprofit third-party organizations have received enough reports about this that there probably is a little bit of an investigation. I'm sure that they've probably sent out a squad card and maybe make sure what's going on here is completely kosher. And if there is something that is absolutely scary with the situation, I'm sure it'll be absolutely found out. But yeah, this is a creepy scenario that obviously people were a little bit, worried about, as was I when I saw it. It was creepy to come across. But generally, the most likely scenario here is one that is not the most sensational, but one that actually will have anybody watching this video question the homeless population of Los Angeles and the actual problems that they go through. I seriously do believe this is a cry for help. Probably not from a human trafficking victim, but somebody who is a victim of, again, being left out in homelessness. But ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. Let me know what your theories are in the comment section below. If you like what you saw, let me know. I am out.